Alright, good morning guys. It is a slow, hot morning today, so I figured let's talk about trolling motors. I already filmed part 1 regarding trolling motors. Today I'm going to do part 2, and before I really get into it, let me just say trolling motors, like coolers, like sunglasses, like a lot of other fishing products, can spark a lot of emotion. Especially if you say one thing is good and the other thing is not as good. This gets the people who have the thing that's not as good, in my or your particular opinion, upset. So let's just keep in mind, I am not trying to tell you what you should do, okay? People ask me what I do. So I am sharing with you some of the things that I do. You may have a different setup. You may do things differently than me. Most likely you do, because I'm kind of different when it comes to fishing. I don't really care what's popular. I do the things that work for me, that I've kind of developed over decades of fishing and experience. So anyway, that being said, after you guys see this, if you don't agree with me, that's great. But let's just be courteous when we're commenting. There's no reason to get offended. If you like one product and I like another product, that's great. That's good for you. I'm happy for you. You should feel the same about me. So let's be constructive if we're going to comment, and let's try not to be critical. All right. So like I said, part 1 is already filmed. Part 1 more talks about what I use and why, and kind of shows what it can do. So you'll see that here shortly. I'll probably cut that in right after this little intro. Part 2 is going to go into more of the technical details about the trolling motor and the modifications that I do to it to make it work the way that I want it to. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started.
People keep asking me, how come I use freshwater trolling motors and tiller trolling motors? Why don't I use a nice remote control saltwater motor? The reason is what I'm doing right now. I mean, look at this crab pot. So look how shallow I am. Try to do this with, a saltwater motor or a remote control motor. You can't do it. Now, if you have a tiller controlled saltwater motor, you probably could, yes. But the other part of it is freshwater motors, especially the low power ones, are so much quieter than saltwater motors. So, at least in my experience. Your experience may be different. You may have found a motor that's real quiet, or you may have been lucky and just got a real quiet running motor in yours. But I can tell you from decades of experience that I find that the low power freshwater motors are much quieter than your saltwater motors. And you can do this. If you get so shallow that the saltwater or the trolling motor will no longer run because it's hitting bottom, you can just tilt it up a little bit and continue to go. You can't do that with a remote control. Like I have an XI3. That's useless out here unless I want to stay out in the deep water. So if I adjust it shallow enough so that I could do something close to this, the prop would just be cavitating constantly and making a bunch of racket. So I mean, this crab trap has a couple of inches, maybe 3-4 inches submerged right now, and I'm trolling right by it. So not only does that tell you what my boat drafts, but it also tells you what you can do with the right setup. So anyway, okay, just to emphasize the point I was making earlier, the tips of my trolling motor blade are just now starting to rub the bottom, and I just dipped the pole to see how deep it is, and it's that deep. So that's what, maybe 4 or 5 inches. Take it or leave it. I know it's not a popular option, but I'm kind of unconventional when it comes to fishing. I do what works for me. So, and this works for me.